Alright, what's going on, guys? We are now in the full swing of the marketing cycle for Elden Ring DLC. And so now there has been a flood of new information. We just got the big story trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree, which we did a full lore breakdown of. Absolutely unbelievably good. But even beyond that, there's so much more to discuss. We've been getting daily tweets from the main Elden Ring account with new images, a few that we're going to break down today, because not only do they introduce us to a new NPC, but also provide some new details on the gameplay that we had questions about going into this, as well as a new idea of how big the DLC is going to be based on official information, as well as even more images from an Elden Ring exhibition in Korea that have yet to be shown officially. And I'm sure by the time this video goes live, there's going to be even more, so I'll do my best to keep up with all of it. But we have a lot to get to today. As always, if you want to stay up to date on all things Elden Ring DLC, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and now let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about today is a new look at one of the main NPCs in Elden Ring DLC, thanks to a new official tweet. The caption along with the image says, "Will you walk with us?" And they shared some absolutely incredible concept art of one of the new NPCs. Now we've actually seen and heard from this character quite a bit, because based on the caption, it lines up with the dialogue of the narrator in the story trailer.
We choose to follow.
So not only does that seemingly confirm that this character is the narrator of the trailer, but also that the leader of this group is the character we see in the concept art. The cloak is the same, the helmet is the same, and the glove that traces the ground in the scene before is the same. And we've seen them as well back in the gameplay trailer, standing next to one of these same runes that they're beneath at the end of the story trailer. But she may also be the one we see at the very beginning, standing in Mohg's arena. If you look closely, you can kind of see what look like brown boots in that field of reeds, and the cloak over her shoulder is double layered like the one we see in the gameplay trailer. So if she is the narrator and she is the one that says touch the withered arm and travel to the land of shadow, I will not be far behind, that implies that she is outside of the land of shadow when we meet her, which if she is the one in Mohg's arena makes perfect sense. But who might she be? Well, according to that last scene in the story trailer, this group appears to be followers of Miquella, loyalists to his cause, evidenced by her repeatedly calling Miquella kind and presenting him in a virtuous light. So in my assumption and what I'm thinking is going to be the case is that she'll be the main NPC that helps us throughout the DLC. We'll likely find her in Mohg's arena, get a little bit of background information, and follow her into the land of shadow. But while she looks like a holy character and will likely be very friendly, there is one sinister part of this picture, and that's actually the shape of her sword. People were pretty quick to notice that the cross guard on the sword looks very similar to the Sacred Relic sword, and we know that the Sacred Relic sword is made out of Radagon's body. We also see this same kind of crossguard on the Fingerslayer blade, which is also said to be made out of someone divine. Now her sword is likely just made that way to represent the holiness of Miquella, but I am going to be very interested to see the description of this sword whenever we end up getting it. After the story trailer dropped, Elden Ring tweeted out something else as well. This is actually a new loading screen, and it's an area we've already seen in promo material and in the trailer, but if you take a close look down there at the base of the staircase, you can see pretty clearly that there is a site of grace, which answers the question that we've been having: are we still going to have graces in the DLC, since this is technically a land without grace? But there we have it, clear as day. Sites of grace are still here, but it makes me wonder about what these runes are. A lot of people were thinking these were going to be our new sites of grace, but now we know we still have grace. Now my personal theory on this is that these could potentially be the new leveling system, these resources we have to find in order to up our character to make them more powerful in the land of shadow. And what makes me think that is the story trailer showing these graces alongside talking about Miquella leaving behind his blinding strength. And so I think as we follow the footsteps of Miquella throughout the land of shadow, we may inherit bits of that strength. But at the moment, that is entirely a theory that's not based on anything, and it is pure speculation on my part. But I am curious to hear what you guys think these runes are and if you agree with my interpretation. But attached to that tweet, we had some very interesting information. The following tweet said, "But the deluxe edition and the premium bundle include the digital art book and original soundtrack with over 30 songs." Now, at first you might not think that means very much, but those 30 new tracks are for the DLC alone. So we can use that to kind of gauge how big this DLC is going to be. For reference, the entirety of Elden Ring's base game had 67 soundtracks. So by the numbers comparison alone, this DLC could very well be at least the size of half of the base game. Because we gotta think about this here. Every new open field will have its own soundtrack, every legacy dungeon will have its own soundtrack. There will probably be 1 or 2 new ones for the minor bosses, maybe 1 or 2 different ones for catacombs and caves, and the minor dungeons, and then maybe a new PvP track, and end credits track, which would probably leave around 20 OSTs for big unique boss fights, and something I'm potentially not accounting for. So it's pretty easy to say that this DLC is going to be massive. Miyazaki saying the size of Limgrave is understatement of the century, which I am more than happy to hear. But another thing we need to talk about are several new DLC images that have appeared online. But before we talk about them, I need to clarify a few things. While these were circulating, there was a lot of talk that these are leaked images. However, let me clarify, what we're about to discuss is not a leak. Although they have not been officially shared by the Bandai accounts, these images come from a public exhibition that was held in Korea. Their website states that anyone could come and go to this exhibition. Now, I've heard conflicting reports on the policy of if visitors were able to take pictures, but let me make this abundantly clear. All of these images are circulating publicly on several journalist websites. So again, this is not a leak. But for those of you that are touchy about not wanting to see things that aren't shared by the official accounts, before I show these images to you, I'll go ahead and describe what the images are because they're not really spoilers. At the expo was a slideshow of several new images showing areas we've already seen in the trailers, just from slightly different camera angles. So if that's something you still don't want to see, I totally understand, and now is probably the time to click away. But for those of you that are sticking around, here they are. There's not really much to say or break down about these. Again, we've already seen these areas in the trailers, but from a different angle, you can really appreciate the beauty of what they've crafted here. Not to knock on the base game at all, but the way the landscape is structured feels a lot more natural, especially with all the waterfalls, which was something we didn't see much of in the Lands Between. And again, this blue flower field area looks so beautiful. It's probably the one I'm most excited to explore. And then we get some underground shots with all the Erdtree jars, and then the final image that we have was of the swamp area, and we get a bit closer look at the entrance of what appears to be the main dungeon. So again, nothing too crazy going on here, all things we had already seen, but I understand for those of you that wouldn't want to take a look at this. Now, I saw a lot of people talking about the idea that these images could be from a new trailer, but I'm fairly certain this was just a stationary slideshow, so I don't think there was any kind of early screening of a new trailer or anything like that. So what do you guys think about everything we talked about today? There's so much Elden Ring DLC news going on that it's almost impossible to keep up with everything. Do you think we're getting too much information? I honestly can't say for sure, but the one thing that comes to mind is, if they're so comfortable showing everything we've already seen, just imagine how much they're not showing. This DLC is going to be massive, and there's almost no doubt in my mind about that. Anyways though guys, that is going to do it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. We've got several more videos on the way, going back through the story trailer because there are a lot of details we missed. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.